Oscar.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because it's
and
definitely the weakest movie of the whole thing.
Very much so.
But he's the most famous dude who made one.
Exactly, most famous dude in the specific categories and all this stuff. And the cast of Black Panther was there, which was awesome. But they kept talking about how it's progressive and things. It wasn't made it was made last year, and last year was, I think, the first year that they had as much influence, as much presence of movies with starring and by POCs. Starring in by women, starring by underrepresented groups. And the thing is, because it's new, it's fresh, it's like, okay, now more people are paying attention. It doesn't change the fact that we watch the whole thing and it still follows a formula. They're still referencing Meryl Streep, and she's been nominated every year since blah, blah, blah.
She was nominated in this year.
And she's an incredible actress, but that's something that hasn't changed. And you mentioned Jimmy Kimmel is back.
Yeah, but it's still relevant if she's nominated, you know what I mean?
I'm not saying she's rehashing it. What I'm getting at is it's still the same damn show it was when I was uninterested when I was 7 years old.
But you can't.
And I fear that Jimmy Kimmel's going to be back again and again because he did an okay job. And eventually, we're going to see it's going to continue the cycle where Jimmy Kimmel will be the next Billy Crystal, hosting the Oscars again in 27.
Please, no.
Just cause.
Maybe.
And I see that forming right now, and that's what I'm afraid of. Because honestly, if we didn't do this show, I wouldn't care about the Oscars. I would barely be aware. I'd check on a Twitter feed or whatnot to see who won the top 3 awards, and that's it. And I'm not alone in that. Most people don't care anymore, and I think that's not our fault. That's theirs.
But it's 90 years. It's the 90th year they've done this. It's the same show over and over.
The same now?
Yeah,
well, if it ain't broke, is what people say.
Fine. It's been broke forever.
Yeah, but people still tune in and watch. It's not really about. It's like, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. We can go on and on about this. We ain't got enough time. I'm going to go into specific awards of people that I thought was important. Sam Rockwell winning Best Supporting Actor, I think, was great because I thought 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. It's probably one of the best films I saw last year as well. And his shout out to Philip Seymour Hoffman, I thought, was because Philip Seymour Hoffman's my personal favorite actor of all time. So his shout out to them was great. Frances McDormand winning for the same movie. The best actress, and she had that one line. She's like, if I leave you with parting words, 2 words here is inclusion writer. And if people don't know what an inclusion writer is,
a serious speech.
An inclusion writer is something that was presented at a TED Talk a few years before about you can argue something into your contract that will have X amount percentage of people will be of different races, different diverse backgrounds and stuff like that. That will be the minimum they can have in there. So it's something that she's trying to get more people to include in their contracts. And so they say about 40 people in a movie have speaking lines. About 10 of them matter. Why not just populate the whole rest of the movie with people from the actual background from where the film would take place? It makes a lot more sense. So this is something I see Hollywood going, and I thought that was a good message.
What's weird is I've heard some pushback on that with people referring to it as like affirmative action films. I'm like, in concept, that sounds like a bad thing, but when you have the actual practice of these folks aren't getting jobs, aren't getting roles, aren't getting writing credits at all, then yes, let's get a little more influence.
But it's just small stuff like it's just like you can be an extra, you can be a background piece that says 2 words. It's not saying like you need to have somebody who's like the second lead be a person of color. It's not saying that. You can still populate a movie how you want to. It's just kind of it's one for crew members as well, not people just in front of the camera, people behind the camera to give people jobs and things like that. And there'll probably be a lot of pushback, but it's a good discussion to kind of bring up. You know what I mean? If she's if she's pushing that, that's her right too. She wanted to reach in the
TV screen and high five her, man. That was awesome.
She's great. You know what I mean? She's been great forever, and I'm glad to see that she won again. She's won before for Fargo, I believe. But yeah, the acting awards was great. Jordan Peele winning was was great as well.
Justice makes high five.
But other than that, the big awards I thought all went to people that I thought were deserving. People thought had great careers. You know what I mean? Obviously, like I said, Gary Oldman. I didn't see The Darkest Hour. It looked like the exact type of movie that wins you a Best Actor Academy Award.
I would have liked to have seen for like makeup. He the way he looked was ridiculous.
He always looks ridiculous. He always looks.
It's weird hearing him speak in his own accent. You forget what he actually sounds like because he does so many movies and he sounds like so many different people, and he's that chameleon-like voice control, kind of like Daniel Day-Lewis. It's weird to see him do a movie where he's like just plays a British guy, or like Daniel Day-Lewis play just like a chummy Irish guy. You know what I mean? It's interesting to see them just play normal people because they're so adaptable.
Daniel Day-Lewis has that thick Chinese accent, so to hear him speaking as English guys.
Exactly, yeah. So all in all, I thought, it's like I said, it's a tough award show to do given the climate of Hollywood right now, but I think Kimmel pulled it off as best as he could.
I'm not hating on Kimmel. I just want to, before we start getting emails, I just want to point out.
No one's hosted that recently where everyone was like,
hate him.
Everyone who's ever hosted that, it's always like, his jokes suck. What this thing? It's like the same complaints over and over. Like, I don't know why anybody would agree to do it. Personally, well, no one's going to be able to pull it off.
It's to get those gift bags, man. They want the swag.
Don't they get like $100,000 gift?
They're
already rich. They're already rich. You don't have to give them more.
But this is Hollywood celebrating Hollywood. Of course, it's going to be that way. Like
it's Hollywood self-sucking Hollywood. That's what it's gotten to be.
I gotta give.
It's always been that way. You're saying like it's become this way. It's always.
I gotta shout out Rita Moreno though.
Wait, hold on a second. It's not, that's not my complaint that it's always been that way. My complaint is that it's still that way. Even though everything we know now, and supposedly we have progressive people doing it, but it's still that way.
It's not progressive?
That's my complaint. It's getting there. Very slowly trying.
What would you like to see? I'm just, other than like nominating Fast and Furious for Best Makeup. You know what I mean? It's like, what would legitimately like changes that you could see that would actually work?
Well, first of all, let's see someone who's not a ridiculously well-known person hosting. Let's see an actual band performance there versus we have the Oscar orchestra and they'll play people off and such. Okay,
but that's not the driving factor for anything. And they have the performances. I thought the performances they always show the ones that are nominated for best original song. So like
consider it this way. It's like think about who plays the Super Bowl halftime show every year. They'll find
either
the Rolling
Beyonce
Stones. They'll
or
find
somebody
Beyonce.
else.
Exactly, and these people get nothing. The price for their price is exposure. It's the same thing with the Oscars. They don't make much. They don't make nearly as much as they would in any other gig. But it's for exposure. Well, then how about get somebody who would need exposure? I know tons of comedians that are doing nowhere near as good, or at the very least, change it up. We expect someone like Jimmy Kimmel.
That's not what this award show is for. It's not about the biggest
curveball they threw was having Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. Get someone like Kevin Hart. Get him in there. Just have it really. I would say, okay, see, that's what I'm saying. These two represent old Hollywood. I'm saying get Kevin Hart.
I just anti-Kevin Hart because he's not funny.
Yeah, that's
hilarious.
He's not. Somebody then bit my shoulder off and I walked like this. It's what Kevin Hart's comedy reminds me of? It reminds me of when Will Smith.
Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest. It reminds me of when Will Smith tries to get up and do stand-up for D.L. Hughley in the Fresh Prince episode.
Well, that's different because Will Smith
and he acts like he's pretending to be a stand-up comedian because he thinks it's so easy. That's Kevin Hart's stand-up.
You just don't like Kevin Hart. You're going to learn today.
You're going to learn today.
I still want to shout out Rita Moreno real quick.
Go for it.
She wore her original dress from when she was up for an award in 1964 for West Side Story, and I love that so much. That she's like,
great too.
What to wear to the Oscars? Oh, this old thing. And I just love both the kind of statement that makes and just the fun of it. And I feel that I fully admit I'm trash, and I didn't watch the Oscars. I just looked at the dress recaps.
I liked they brought Warren Beatty back with Faye Dunaway to redo their blunder from last year's Oscars.
I'm a little
I was like,
this
is funny, man. This is like, okay. And they're like, kind of played it off pretty good. He's like, well, now that pretty much everything's done, what could possibly go wrong from here? That's just, it was funny.
I'm upset that Jimmy Kimmel didn't give him a public apology in his opening monologue.
Yeah, I think
that's where Warren Beatty.
How about next year they do Jimmy Kimmel and they bring on Adam Carolla and they just do the Man Show?
No, how about next year they do Kevin Hart
for the whole 3 hours? That'd be something.
No,
hey, here's Helen Mirren jumping on trampoline.
Girls on trampoline.
Helen Mirren jumping on trampoline. Why not, right?
Okay, to be fair, I would watch Helen Mirren jump on a trampoline.
Just 3 straight hours of that.
Sign me up.
All right,
just the running tagline: "Who won? They don't even present them."
All right, we'll check the roster of the Oscars 2019, and we'll talk.
You heard the idea here first, folks.
Yeah, Kevin Hart 2019. Okay, so I got to check out Death Wish, my friends.
Speaking of Oscar-worthy films.
Oh, Death Wish was beautiful. How dare you? No, Death Wish is the remake of the classic 1976 movie starring Charles Bronson and a very young, lesser-known Jeff Goldblum.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Isn't he plays the guy in the supermarket, right?
Goldblum?
Yeah.
No, Goldblum was one of the rapists. He was one of the gangs. One of the gang
Yeah,
members.
but isn't he in the supermarket going crazy in that film? There's a scene with him like, he's in line at the grocery store or something like that.
Oh, okay. If that's him, I don't remember that part as well as I thought I did. Mostly because when I saw the movie, I was 10.
Yeah, it could be.
But this is not the fiction we're talking about. We're talking about the remake starring Bruce Willis.
Yeah, because Hollywood was demanding that Death Wish remake.
You know what? I'm not hating, man.
No, I'm not either. But I think my beef, maybe you can correct me because you've seen the movie. Like, Bruce Willis has been like floating through his last however many roles with seemingly not caring about anything he's been in. He is so tapped out of all the films he's kind of appeared in that you're like, why do it? Do you need to check that bad? Are you trying to stay relevant? Like act like you care.
No,
Everything I've seen him in, he just looks like so bored to be there. He looks like Harrison Ford.
No. I think what it is Bruce Willis is now at the point where he's like, people know me for this and only for this, so I'm trying to flex my acting chops. The problem is he doesn't realize he's not that good at acting.
You know, he's so cool though, and that's he got by being like, you know what I mean, that kind of sly, like, yeah, I know how great it is.
Yeah, Bruce, and that worked, but that's all he was.
Yeah.
This is a great example. In Death Wish, he plays a very subdued, understated character. He's supposed to be a suburban dad. Ironically enough, it wasn't a good movie. But in, what was it, Hostage? Yeah. Where he was the hostage negotiator. He played a similar kind of role, but his performance there was better than it was in here. And not that he was
Rising
bad.
Where he's a hostage negotiator? That was something else.
This was the one where Ben Foster held his family hostage.
Oh, yeah.
And just played the ultimate crazy guy.
Ben Foster's played some crazy dudes.
Ben Foster is a crazy dude.
Yeah.
That dude got stories, man. No, on the subject of Death Wish, this is Bruce Willis playing a subdued character. It's him really trying to flex emotion and flex angst.
Not muscles.
Not muscles.
He's never had the muscles. That's why I liked him so much.
Well, I don't know, man. In Die Hard, the first one at least, he was
he was in shape, but he was never like that, hey, let me flex on you and stuff type of guy. Where the other, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, they're all kind of that dude. He was kind of like the guy that got beat up and he's bleeding out of his foot and out of his face, and he would survive. I know, that's why I like him, but he was never this macho hero.
You could see yourself in that situation and know,
right,
okay, if I was there, I would die immediately.
Yes, but he was tougher than everybody else. He, kind of had that survival type thing.
I'm going to cook you, and then I'm going to eat you to break your freaking neck.
Yeah, he's great.
These are lines from Die Hard. But he's acting in Death Wish, and that is a mistake. That is a serious mistake.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I'll give you a quick rundown of Death Wish because it's a little
content.
different. It's a little different from the original Death Wish picture. As we mentioned, Death
Wish
is
looked like more of a comedy, too.
It was not. It was
funnier.
It was not, which is unfortunate. And I'll
Death Wish isn't funny when he's going around killing everybody?
The original Death Wish was hilarious.
It was.
It starts off with a gang
it's a rough
raping
vengeance
and killing.
movie is the first one.
It's a Grindhouse B movie.
Yeah.
Yes, but the original Death Wish starts off with Charles Bronson's wife and daughter being assaulted in their home. They're raped and they're killed. And then the husband comes home and he sees what the hell's going on. I'm going to get just bloody vengeance on everybody, and he does, and it's glorious.
Because I have a death wish.
Well, the thing about that is though, he's killing people in ridiculous ways. And I don't mean ridiculous like, oh, he set up some Rube Goldberg device. I just mean he's a guy who's like never really like picked up a gun. He's not like old military or anything. Yeah. But he's like just sniping people with a pistol, with like a handgun.
He's also did Charlie Bronson did a movie
he's
back
like
then
picking them off from like
Bang.
across parking lots and stuff. And he's got a quip. Like almost every time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, bam, smart line. Bam, smart line.
It's like almost Friday the 13th comedy type thing, you know what I mean?
Almost.
Kill somebody in a weird way, then
almost.
Be like...
Not to that degree, because it still carried like the weight of like rape and murder, and these are bad people you want to see get it. Whereas in Friday the 13th, we start rooting for
people to just die, yeah.
Yeah. In this picture, I was going to read the description real quick. I'll say... Dr. Paul Kersey is a surgeon who often sees the consequences of the city's violence in the emergency room. When home intruders brutally attack his wife and young daughter, Kersey becomes obsessed with delivering vigilante justice.
Now, did they kill the wife and child?
They absolutely killed the wife.
Okay.
Well, they killed the wife, and
Oh.
something happened to the child. But let me get through this
All
without
right.
spoilers, my friend, because I got some stuff to talk.
All right.
As the anonymous slayings grab the media's attention, the public begins to wonder if the deadly Avenger is a guardian angel or the Grim Reaper itself. And that's an interesting thing that they did in this interpretation. It wasn't just one man on his quest for vengeance. He became a vigilante, and as this was more publicized, the public starts getting on his side. There are copycats that are popping up everywhere, and it became like this whole thing. Is he a good guy? Is he Batman? Or is he just some crazy fool with a gun that we should lock up?
Both, right?
That comes down to audience interpretation. This was done by Eli Roth. We talked about it a little before.
Yeah,
the
He's
show.
certainly a hack.
I don't know. I like some of
he
his
did the
stuff.
clown
He's
movie
still
that
a
messed
hack,
me up
but
real
yeah,
bad.
Yeah, he's a hack.
Well, Eli Roth is the cat who bought us
Hostel.
Hostel, so I'm very surprised there was
By the way,
there wasn't as much body horror in.
He's got a new movie coming out.
Called Death Wish, I know.
No,
Talking about it now.
Meg. Like this next movie, like about a megalodon giant shark movie, which is like just the idea. Like I'm so terrified of sharks.
So Eli
So he's
Roth
bringing
is
my
producing for
Jaws
what,
is
sci-fi?
like the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like I'm so terrified, and so my biggest fear of all time is megalodon sharks, and he's making a movie apparently about that.
Can't wait
exact
to hear
thing,
your review.
which I will not see. So I will do. No, maybe if Pat goes with me and holds me the whole time. we could
Absolutely
see it
not.
that way.
I'm surprised that that's your biggest fear. We
Megalodon.
had four, actually I think 5 movies now where sharks are raining from the sky. Yet this one about
Megalodon.
Yeah, but
an
those are
ancient
normal
one.
size sharks.
Yeah.
Adam's afraid
I
of
don't-
very big sharks, double
Well,
plus sharks.
Double
Adam
plus.
didn't watch that whole series.
Those are
because
just normal
towards
sharks.
The end, they're not just normal sharks.
What about street
There are
sharks? Can
electric
you get
sharks.
behind the street
Yeah, I
sharks?
could get
There
behind
sharks
that,
on
yeah.
Are they
fire.
jawsome?
Gone shape.
I'll let y'all finish. Go ahead.
No, sorry.
I was just bringing up.
No, you're not. Okay, so in Death Wish, I'm actually impressed with Bruce Willis's effort, but I'm unimpressed with the actual execution because he's actually trying. This is a man who can't really act, but he's going out of his comfort zone. He's failing, but at least he's doing something, you know. And I've got to say, Bruce Willis isn't the man we expect to take chances. This was a chance to take.
Interesting. It doesn't seem like that, though. I mean, that's not how it comes up. I don't doubt what you're
I
saying.
know, that's
right
what I'm
now.
saying.
Yeah.
And the advertising for this is very misleading because they pretty much show you every kill in the trailer.
Right, it's one of those. Yeah, it's like what's
It is.
left to the imagination now.
Well, you'd think it's Death Wish. Oh, man, so this is just a taste of what they're showing because that Charles Bronson one, man, he was tapping them left and right. Yes, he was. And in this picture, he was not. They set it more in a realistic realm, even though they get very unrealistic, so it's playing to extremes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a surgeon. He's a non-violent guy. He's got a scumbag brother played pretty well by Vincent D'Onofrio, which was a real, like, refreshing, whoa, I didn't see that coming,
Yeah,
thing to happen on
he's
the
a
screen.
big dude now.
Vincent D'Onofrio, he is, but he got that kingpin.
Yeah,
waist
right. Get
going.
that barrel-chested type.
Yep. But he's like the scumbag brother, and they throw that in as a red herring. And I don't want to get into spoilers, so all I'll say is from there, they start casting doubt on several people. And Willis is kind of, Dr. Kersey, the role he plays, is pretty smart in the way that he manipulates the public's view. Once people start seeing him as either a savior or B, a menace, you know? And parts of it were funny. Mostly came from the kills. And then parts of it were ridiculous. Mostly from the attempted political message.
Yeah.
It had an overhanging sense of this is very possible in Trump's America. You know?
Yeah.
And that's part of where the comedy comes in. But beyond that, there's not much. Johnny, what the hell are you doing over there?
Nothing.
Anyone who's watching us on the Twitch stream, this man is losing his mind in the corner.
That's for the people watching.
Oh, jeez.
Did they request it?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's...
Just giving a little
All
space
right, who
to
cares?
something.
All right. I feel like you lost a bet or something. All right. Well, anyways, what I'm getting at is the movie Death Wish is starring Bruce Willis, giving a different type of performance. Elizabeth Shue was in this movie. She didn't really do
Wow,
much.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, she plays more behind the scenes and like smaller movies, which I mean, good for her, but bad for the image. At the end of the day, I would say this is a movie where you'd go to see it expecting some cool kills, some fast lines, maybe a bit of gore here and there, but just a silly shoot-'em-up movie, and all you'll get is a movie where a couple of people get killed, and I don't know, it'll kill an afternoon.
Yeah.
At best, this is worth maybe a matinee if you have nothing better to do, but beyond that, I can't recommend it. I got to give it a thumbs down, and it's kind of a hesitant thumbs down because I wanted to like this, and it's Eli Roth, and I like Bruce Willis
don't
movies
like
normally,
Eli
and
Roth.
I like Elizabeth Shue. I want to see her in a property that I would recommend, but this promises a lot and doesn't deliver. There's a couple of cool kills, but besides that, it's not worth your time. I'm sorry. It's Death Wish 2018, starring Bruce Willis, Elizabeth Shue.
You know, I named my
and
new
I gotta
dog
give it a
Bruce
thumbs
Willis.
down. You named your dog Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Little Bruce Willis.
Why?
Because my name's Adam Willis, and so he's Little Bruce Willis.
Oh, I get it. That's awful.
Yeah.
You
Maybe
should've
I'm
named-
going to change his name after this shit sandwich of a
Should've not-
movie.
should've called him Bruno.
Bruno Willis.
Yeah, like Bruno the Kid.
Little Bruce.
Or no, that's Bruce Willis. That's the Bruce Willis band name. Bruno and the Kids.
Bruno, the Return of Bruno was the CD,
Return of
right?
Bruno, yeah.
Return of Bruno. That music video, by the way, if you folks are unaware, Bruce Willis did have a CD back in the 90s, or was it the late 80s, 90s?
It was 90s.
And The Return of Bruno is the name of the album, and you can watch the music video right now on YouTube.
Choice.
Well, actually, you just want to wait till the show is over, then immediately go
Yeah.
watch that.
Man plays blues harmonica.
But treat yourself to some some rock and roll brought to you by Bruce Willis.
Nice.
That's actually a funny joke in what's one of the TGIF shows, Full House. And she's like, wow, you know, Jesse and the Rippers and stuff like that.
Jesse and the Rippers
He's
opening
like,
for
wait,
Bruno and the
he's
Kids.
like, how come I can't get a record deal? He's like, Bruce Willis has one. And I was like, that's the first time I ever heard Bruce Willis had a record. Anyways.
My favorite joke is from Married with Children, where Al, just to hold off that special moment, thinks, why is Bruce Willis a star? All right, so moving on
Maybe
from there, I'm going to
maybe.
turn it over to Mixed Macabre and Black Adam Willis, because you all got to see an Oscar-winning picture now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, A Fantastic Woman. You want
Yes.
to give us the inside
I thought the
stuff?
Oscar was going to go to The Square, first of all, because I think that won the Cannes Film Festival, and I usually go, that's what's going to win the
You
Oscar.
think
But when I
Fantastic
saw...
Woman was undeserved?
No, I hadn't seen this yet, so I watched it today.
Okay.
Because it won, and I was so surprised not surprised that I liked it, but like that I hadn't heard of it and that it was playing and that I had waited just till it won to see it. But if you want to kick us off on this, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I loved it, but I feel like I'm super biased for these types of films. But
Maybe,
what it basically follows, like, you know, the love life of the main character in many ways.
yeah, it's like a melodrama. It's basically it follows this here. What's the name? Marina
Mm-hmm.
is her name. It played by Daniela Vega.
Yep, who was the first trans woman to present an award at the Oscars.
Correct, yeah. And she's in a relationship with this man named Orlando, and she's a singer. She's very talented, and she's at the show. She's doing a performance, and they go home, and basically he clutches his chest in the middle of the night, and he's taken to the hospital, and he's dead. And from that point on...
Who hasn't been there?
Yeah, and from that point on,
I don't
you
know
know
if
what I
last
mean?
time I died.
They go to the family, who is kind of it basically all turns to how she is treated after, you know, her lover is dead. The family can't really understand that, you know, the father and this woman's husband is in a relationship with this woman, and the doctors even, you know, kind of give her the masculine pronunciation of her name and things. So it's just straight disrespect, and then she gets evicted from her home that she shared with Orlando. So it's really all this really heavy kind of dumping ground on this woman, and like her in the face of that trying to you know, literally survive. And she obviously, to me, kind of is the symbol, very, you know, that it's limited not just to Chile where the film was made and where it takes place, but this is kind of, I think, the plight of many transgender, you know, people. And, you know, this movie is kind of, like I said, a melodrama, and it has a lot of like these realistic kind of issues, but it's also peppered with some surrealness, some very, you know, fantastical moments.
Yeah, it has the magical realism elements. Because it's as a lot of Latino American filmmakers veer
kind
toward
like an
that.
Almodovar type style.
I was going to say that
too.
Almodovar very like the kind of, it's not quite a dream sequence, but it's not quite like how it would go down in reality.
Right.
And there's a very beautiful visual quality to this film, I thought.
It's very bright, but it also had the shadow.
Well, that's
which was
for
great.
a film like this, you'd think it'd be kind of mopey.
Right.
if you will, but I never felt that way.
No,
it
you're
was
right.
very not necessarily so far as uplifting, but it's just again very bright. Main characters very cheerfully dressed, bold
I think
colors.
it would have been a little overdone if it had been a little like more drab.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not
darkly
getting.
shot. I wouldn't have got like I would have walked away kind of like, damn, you know what I mean?
It doesn't
a little too heavy.
feel almost like it doesn't have that soap opera quality that I think that it could have veered into.
It would have been almost parody at that point.
And
though,
I
too.
think that what really tempers it is also the acting. I felt was all very not just well done, but realistic in the sense that characters felt very three-dimensional, that characters felt very like it wasn't just like relying on stereotype, even though the plight of the film kind of comes down to like what role this trans woman has after her lover passes away, and kind of how do you parse out almost like this life that no longer has its focus without her partner, without her lover. And something that I found really, what I think maybe led to its winning the Oscar here, is that it wasn't another woe is me, she's trans and no one respects her. It's that she was kind of reclaiming her life in a way that was very, again, three-dimensional and more than just, it didn't heavily rely on, I'm trying to think how to put this, her being a trans woman wasn't the crux of this film.
Right.
It was another facet of who she was and the struggles that she had to overcome in this film. But the story wasn't a coming out story. The story wasn't what we've seen 100 times. That this character was moving through this tale and evolving through it in a way that I think we haven't really seen since the movie Tangerine, where characters are, I don't want to say incidentally trans because their transgendered nature is center to the story, but I really think that Fantastic Woman is both aptly named, but also a film that I would really suggest to people that just enjoy the romantic drama genre and don't necessarily look at it as a queer film. Just go into it the same way that you would were this a cisgendered straight love story of a lover passing away. And that's what I think that they had a really deft hand with how, and I don't know if this is because it's not American, but it felt very richly done. Every scene had a lot going on, and again
like
with just the
European
colors
movie
used.
That they still have scenes.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
There was,
Probably
you would have
it is.
everything had a setting to it. It wasn't just like now we're in a hospital room.
To
now we're
further
in a
along the
bedroom.
story, they want to actually bask in the cinema of what we're showing you, and I completely agree. One of the things that kind of ruined me with the film in terms of like how I felt was this woman was not just being treated so poorly. It's that she was really robbed of not just her lover when he passes away, but her right to mourn him too. Which is she wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. You know what I mean? She was kicked out of the house. She wasn't allowed to have the dog. The dog was taken from her, and so it was really robbed of like not just like I said her lover and how they don't have that relationship anymore because he's gone, but like she wasn't even allowed to mourn him, and that can be such a devastating thing. You know what I mean? Like losing a friend recently, and like if I wasn't had that outlet to like actually sit there and kind of work through it and talk about it and get that stuff out, like that is a really, really, really heavy thing to not be able to or be allowed to do. And her being stripped of that in this film really kind of touched me in a way, like having gone through stuff like that as well. But you're right.
Remembering your experience with the trans woman, being denied a meaningful relationship with someone.
But like jokes aside, that's kind of what I'm getting at, and I think that the reason that it won this foreign language Oscar is that it connects with an audience on a level that isn't a trans story. That it is a story about a woman who is trans, who is being denied her life essentially because of who and what she is. But it doesn't feel like you can't connect with her. And that's something that I think a lot of media, particularly queer media, sometimes has this isolationist feeling to it. And this doesn't. This is a bold and interesting story that I think was told well. And that's something that I feel makes it very deserving of the award, the accolades it has received. And also just, it was enjoyable to watch. It's obviously not the most, happy fun time movie ever, but it was a pleasure to watch this movie. It felt engaging. And I personally am really glad that I was able to make the time for it.
Yeah, I mean, and we were crapping a little bit on the Oscars a little bit, but if it wasn't for award shows like this and having this movie won something, I wouldn't have probably discovered it. And so, it might be out of touch, it might not be connected, but on that same tip, some of these movies that win and some of these movies, wow, I didn't hear about that, no one's seen this, like, well, maybe you should because they're fantastic. And I think, case in point, this movie, like, I went out and saw it this afternoon because it won, because I didn't know enough about it, and I'm so happy I did. And I think if more people kind of did that, like, hey, what's this Three Billboards movie? What's this? You know what I mean? If they go out and discover it, and that has a lot of value. So that's all I will say. But yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up, absolutely.
All right. I figure you guys were leaning toward the thumbs down, so I'm very surprised that went the way it did. All right, so the movie's called A Fantastic Woman. Where can cats actually check this out?
This is at the Coolidge. This is at the Kendall.
Anything that you're going to find that's a more art house theater should have it.
Which is one of 2 or 3 locations in Boston.
Like I think the Embassy out near Waltham has it, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so mostly like indie theaters, places that have
places that show movies with subtitles.
Yes.
Yeah, things like that.
Yes.
All right.
I gotta read and watch this. This movie sucks.
Yes, you have to read.
Well, sticking on that high prestige note, I'm going to kick it over to Mix Macabre and just Johnny over there because you all got
Game of the Year. Best thing ever.
Best thing to transition to.
God.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
Transition to?
Oh.
No.
Sorry.
Boo. I'm saying boo earns.
All right, so the game is Guts and Glory, currently available on Steam right now.
I'm taking my glasses off for this review.
Oh, well, lay it on us, because apparently it's sound.
I have to face palm hard enough. I had to take my glasses off.
All right, well, Mix is checked out. Just Johnny, give us the rundown on what this game is actually about.
All right, right off rip, I'm going to give this a big steaming pile of thumbs downness, so I'll start with that.
Well, I'll give the basic breakdown of the game. So it's almost like the worst boxcar race game imaginable, where you're trying to get this like guy and his kid down a racetrack essentially, and not like have them explode or like burst into flames or float into space or question mark. It's like a wonky physics engine racing game question mark.
It's like an obstacle course racing game.
Yeah, obstacle course. So you're trying to get from point A to point B
at the fastest possible
without smacking into something.
Yeah. And
would be nice if the game let you do that.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it was the challenge. It's like the second level of Battletoads. We can't make it too easy.
Not quite, Fred.
Well, there's a couple ways to play this. You can play on keyboard and mouse, which is definitely not something you should do.
Which is all I had. So hello.
Or you play with a controller.
I then tried it with my Xbox controller that plugs into Steam, and I did barely better with it.
Yeah, I found it significantly better with the 360 remote. However, you cannot play this with any other kind of remote. I tried playing on my Wii U Pro controller, and the controls were unmapped.
It was nearly impossible on keyboard and mouse. Almost impossible. And that's how I play most games.
Wait, so I can't plug in my Power Glove and just go
I'm a filthy casual.
If you have the right drivers, but this game will ignore the drivers that are installed on there. So I add the
It's a cursed game. I want to establish this, everyone. This game is cursed.
Oh, that sounds like the challenge.
This
like,
game
okay,
is
even the controller's gonna test you.
Well, I'm not gonna fault it on the controller front because the 360 remote did work somewhat okay. It was decent for most of the vehicles and somewhat acceptable, except for there's a couple of different vehicles that you can play in this that you're using to sort of navigate through these obstacles.
My favorite's the bicycle.
The bike is probably the best
my
one,
favorite,
just because it handles so well.
That's what I was gonna say. It was the only one that I actually could make do anything.
Yeah. Wait. So what are the other vehicles? So like one roller skate?
No, it's like I wish.
Do you want me to go over those?
Yeah, go.
All right, so there's the bicycle. There's a kid also on a bicycle, but with a wagon. All right, so the bicycle.
There's like a child wagon, like a kiddie wagon.
Yeah, the red wagon.
Yeah.
The red wagon that
like
the handle
you pull.
on it.
Radio Flyer.
Yes, the one.
Anyone with a sibling did this thing where they put their younger sibling on and pulled them. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I wanted my brothers to live. So I couldn't do that.
Oh, I definitely did that.
No, I definitely.
It's like, we're going down the hill. Can I buckle in this side? No.
So those two kind of operate somewhat the same. The first bike has a baby strapped.
That's my favorite one. That's my favorite one.
That is the best one. Handles the best. The other one with the wagon, you feel like there's a weight tethered to the back of it, and it's sort of like a bicycle trailer tractor.
You're gonna fishtail into something if you use this one.
Yeah, and there's a little girl on the back of it, and the ragdoll physics is pretty funny. They sort of like cemented it in there, but they're like moving around. They're trying not to fall off, but they fall off. That part is like comical for like the first minute.
Yeah.
But the other vehicles there's this sort of like a rednecky type of individual on a 4-wheeler. There's a Evel Knievel lady on a miniature dirt bike. It's not
awesome.
It's like a smaller dirt bike, but it's not like miniature, so it's like in between small and miniature.
I'm talking like the little crusty bike from that episode of The Simpsons where Homer became a clown.
No, but I wish.
No. And then the other three is there's a car with a family, and that car's terrible. And then there's this one's also terrible for different reasons. There's this pickup truck.
Yep.
With people from I believe Mexico, and they have 2 people riding on the back, and there's like the pickup is full of narcotics wrapped up in pack. Oh yeah, and there's money
because everything goes flying. Everything goes
around.
flying. Because here's the thing, I was talking with Johnny about this before. It's almost like you take a racing game and you combine it with Goat Simulator.
That sounds amazing.
Where
it
has it's not, again, the problem with this game is not its concept, but its follow through. To me, anyway, it is nearly impossible to play this game in an enjoyable manner.
Or a lack of follow through, right?
Yeah,
this game lacked any kind of polish whatsoever. In addition to,
there's no way to play this to enjoy the silliness of the game.
Yeah, because you're seeing the same assets over and over again, the same buildings, the same sort of textures that are all over the place. It's essentially one map. There is a city map. And there is there are more than just one map, but you kind of are stuck to one particular map and then a different obstacle course sort of smacked on top of it for you to go through. And the music isn't it's not bad. It's just that it's so minimal and generic and derived.
They didn't hire Tommy Tallarico for the jams.
No, and the menus in the UI now. This is an early access game,
yes.
So there are you have to go into this thinking, all right, benefit of the doubt. They'll probably fix these things. They'll probably fix these other things.
Like scrapping the game and starting over. Like that's my problem.
Yes.
My issue with this game is not that it is inherently a bad game. It's that I literally could not play through this game in an enjoyable manner. And now I started out with keyboard and mouse trying to play, nearly impossible. I then used the Xbox controller that I have, made it passable. But it still would be like, part of the obstacle course is, it's funny when the guy on the bike hits a road cone and the baby goes flying. It's hilarious. But when you're doing that the 12th time and you're like, I just want to finish this thing so I can do a different thing. Yeah. And it really feels like you hit this roadblock because the game is just so not thought through that there's only a finite amount of things the game lets you do, if you will.
Man. I was excited from the concept of, you got to keep the baby alive, and there's buzzsaws and stuff everywhere.
It's not about keeping a baby alive.
That's the whole thing, too. Not at all. It's just about getting from point A to point B.
And the baby is a decoy. You got to chuck it into
that
baby
baby can plop off. Nobody cares.
The obstacle course is almost as if, 1, 2, maybe 3 hits, and then you die. And that's sort of it. It's like it's an HP system, and then they have like this little gore effects tied to it. But it's really kind of like a minimal HP system in order for you to get from point A to point B and finish it without dying.
Yep.
And if you take enough hits, or if you take the right kind of hits, like if you take a saw blade to the chest, well, that's it. 1 hit, you're dead. If you take, there's like they shoot like these big giant cannon or bounce balls.
I thought they were bouncy balls.
Yeah, like blue bouncy balls.
Yeah.
They shoot them at you. If you might be able to take 1 or 2 hits, but if you take a direct hit, it'll blow apart your arms and legs and stuff like that. So it really depends.
Yeah, and then it's funny because it's over the top violence. They literally explode. That's what I'm saying with the Goat Simulator aspect of it. But I couldn't play it. I admit I got like 2 hours on it, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, there's like a boost button. It doesn't really do much at all.
Yeah, I expected it to like nitro you until it doesn't.
Yeah.
I thought, I'd be shooting off.
Or when you're playing with sound, I imagine it at least like boost your ego. It's like,
it does nothing.
You look beautiful.
It does nothing.
You don't even hear anything.
No,
I love that.
Yeah, I would expect it would have some. That's a perfect summation of the whole game. Is you go to boost and you're like, all right, it's gonna have some rocket blasting. It's gonna do something. No.
Yeah.
No,
Not
you go
even a
slightly
baby
faster.
cry or anything
Doesn't
like
do
that.
anything.
You don't hear a baby crying.
You
The
don't hear a
baby's
baby
like
cry?
quiet
Well, of
all the
course,
time while you're
it's-
recklessly bicycling all over the place.
Of course, Mix Macabre is callously chucking it across the field as a decoy to.
To be fair, I did try to kill that baby a lot.
Mm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie.
You
Yeah.
can actually. I guess the only good thing about this is that you can have your baby die and still finish the obstacle course.
Well, that's the whole thing, though. Like, there's no penalty. There is no penalty. Your baby can plop right off.
Yeah.
They do not care.
Wow.
Yeah, and not
Parent
only
of the year,
that.
then. Is there anything good about this game?
Yeah, you could not
has
buy it,
fun
not
content.
play
Yeah,
it.
don't play this game.
Yeah.
You could do anything else.
So a thumbs down.
Yeah, that's a
how
thumbs
many-
down.
Oh,
I
yeah.
try not to
Yeah.
give like a resounding thumbs down, but like I
Just be
can't
honest.
think of anything good about this game. Like, it just was completely unenjoyable.
It's 10 wasted dollars. I can give you a list of like 100 other games they could spend $10 on. They'll have a way better time.
Go
than
get
this
some
thing.
Super Pooper. You'll have a great day.
Poop. Oh boy.
Super Pooper 2.
All right,
Super
so the game is
Pooper
Guts
2.
and Glory, currently available on the Steam store now. It sounds
It
like
is Steam.
you guys are on the fence.
Yeah, on the pooping on the fence.
Oh, bro. All right. We're talking.
What do you
we're at
got,
poop
bro?
jokes now. All right. So thank you very much for that. We're gonna close out with. Dude, I got to check out Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
The Netflix's Full Metal Alchemist.
Mhm.
It's a live action interpretation of the very popular anime that's gone into 2 series now.
2 series, yes. Two fully finished series. Original FMA and Brotherhood.
And
Brotherhood being the one that is closer to the manga.
And I never read the original manga, but I checked
Ooh,
out
I
both
have.
series. I checked out the first series, and I checked out a few episodes of Brotherhood
Ooh,
and
so
realized,
then you don't know Full Metal Alchemist.
okay, excuse me.
You
sorry,
don't know.
I didn't.
I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be that guy.
You
Well,
actually
lay it
don't
out then. What
need
is-
to watch it, though.
No.
If you watch this movie, it will tell you
Yeah.
exactly what Full Metal Alchemist is all about.
Yeah.
And the
On that
lore.
note,
As
Johnny,
of- yeah.
tell us what Full Metal Alchemist, the Netflix live-action release, is all about.
So there's these 2 brothers, and they lose their mother, and they're in this world where alchemy is a thing, and they try to resurrect their mother. They fail epically. The younger brother dies. The other brother loses a leg. The younger brother then performs another alchemy
Older
thing. The older brother, in order to get at least his younger brother back, the soul of his younger brother back, and he makes sort of like a deal with God or
No.
himself.
No.
It's like a weird invisible cloud, not invisible cloud
It's a
thing.
space
but,
fart.
but essentially there's this law of equivalent exchange. So whatever it is that you're trying to transmute via the alchemy, you have to give something of equal value or equal worth
Or
to
equal
do.
substance also.
Equal substance as well, yeah.
I'm gonna-
There's
I'm
multiple rules
But
to
you're
that.
getting,
What
you're
did
getting
you
whacked.
take out of
I'm
this
going to pause you right
Can I-
there.
Yeah.
Well, Mix is sighing very heavily into the mic over here.
I don't think she
So for
can
the
sigh
sake
any
of
heavier.
our-
I have a lot
Mic
of feelings about Full Metal Alchemist.
All right, so lay it on us, Mix. What's this about?
Like Johnny was saying, there's
Space fart.
2 brothers. They study alchemy. Mother dies. Father's out of the picture and fully out of the picture for this film, which is very interesting, but we'll get to that later. And they try to bring their mother back, but you can't. A major plot in this is that you can't transmute a human life. Or can you? But you can't. So their mother comes back, and she's basically just a pile of meat, and it's terrifying. And so in the process, though, Al, younger brother, loses his full body for this equivalent exchange. Al basically is incorporeal at this point, and Ed, the older brother, can pull his soul out of what is past the door of knowledge, but which is also very weirdly done in this film.
Yeah.
So he gets back Al's soul, binds it to a suit of armor. So now Al is a young kid growing up is a giant suit of armor. He is hollow. He has no physical body. And Ed ends up losing an arm and a leg. He gets to use automail, which is what we would consider prosthesis, which is made for him by their childhood friend Winry. And in order to try and get Al's body back, Ed becomes a state alchemist, which is a branch of the military, because in this world, alchemy is something that is used, you can use it to transmute ingredients to cook, or you could, level a city by transmuting all of the, water to glass or something crazy.
All right, I'm going to pause you right there real quick. Adam, I'm going to assume you're not a hardcore anime fan. You're not a person who's very familiar with the...
You lost me at
Alchemist
pile
series.
of meat.
Exactly.
Pile of meat.
That's one of the biggest
Pile of
problems
meat.
with this
Yep.
with this adaptation.
It's
It
too
relies
fast.
heavily on people
yeah.
being familiar
Yes.
with the anime or with the manga.
Yes.
Because anyone else who's just like looking through Netflix to see a cool film,
No.
Hey, it's a
They
meat
are
pile and it's
completely-
his mom. That sucks.
exactly.
Well, here's the thing. They don't
And-
even show that at the beginning. Like they show a lot of this film in flashback that happens throughout the film.
Just
and
like in
it's
anime.
Just like in the anime. But the difference is when you're watching an anime series, you're invested in the longer story. So you're okay with getting to episode... When does Shotaka show up? Episode 8 or episode 6 or 8. I don't remember which one. And finding out some backstory stuff. Whereas in the movie, it was very disjointed. I mean, I'll give my real quick hot take on this. I'm a huge Full Metal Alchemist fan. I have seen all of the series, read all of the manga. I even saw that horrible Conqueror of Shambhala movie, which is a weird alternate universe. I don't need to get into
No,
it now.
just stick to
Yeah.
main.
But
Yeah.
I
5 minutes.
liked this movie, and I feel that it's not a bad adaptation, but it was very difficult for my friend who was significantly less knowledgeable about Full Metal Alchemist to follow what was going on
Naturally.
without pausing several times and being like, wait, who's that guy? Wait, I don't understand. Why is this guy doing this? When did we meet? When did that guy say he did XYZ? And I feel that it's a really fun movie if you are familiar with Full Metal Alchemist, even if it's just the original series, which is a little wonky. All that happened was it got way ahead of the manga, so it started making up stuff on its own. But I would give like I'll give my quick Mix Macabre thumbs up with a caveat that it generally just doesn't make a lot of sense if you don't have a background from Full Metal Alchemist. That being said, some of it visually looked great, and then some of it, like, why is the main character in a bad cosplay wig? I've made a better Edward Elric wig than that wig in the movie. But then you'd see, like, some of the villains in the movie looked phenomenal. And it just was very wild to me that it's like, did you just spend your whole budget on this one thing? Because
No,
she
you
looks
make a-
great, but
They
y'all look
spent
terrible.
it on the armor.
You make a very
Yeah,
good
That
Ed
point.
armor
looks
is
great.
so good.
Ed looks sick. The armor looks sick. And the use of alchemy looks like on par with anything I've seen on Netflix.
Now, on the opposite side of that coin, there, I will say this movie can eat a dick.
Well, that's what
I
I'm saying.
thought
That's,
this
what,
could-
that's
I
my
thought
point. Real
this
quick, though,
was
that's my
completely-
point, though. That I have a huge background in FMA, and I feel I got a lot out of it because I know stuff. But if you don't, here's Pat's review.
Well, thank you. I've actually seen all of Full Metal Alchemist.
You just
because
said
I'm
you
not
had
familiar-
it.
No,
you just
I,
said you hadn't seen the ones that were closer to the manga.
I didn't see Brotherhood. That
That-
doesn't mean I didn't watch the,
But the
first
original-
series, which they based a lot of this on, including
No,
several
but-
scenes which they tried to recreate directly, and they made a few
That's where it
changes. Which
fails.
I think it failed all over the place. The only thing that really sold this was the performance by the one who played Lust. I brought up the.
That's the one. Okay, I was trying to
Yeah,
I
Lust.
didn't know how spoilery to get. Lust was perfect in every
we
way,
know the homunculus
and I
are
feel
gonna
like
be
they
in this.
blew the whole budget on being like, "Yo, the homunculus look great. Screw everyone else."
The homunculus
looked
They looked
perfect.
really good, and the woman who played Lust, she
Oh my god!
in her performance was just she commanded every
Mhm.
every frame she was in.
wouldn't
well,
give her that much because
I
there were
would, because
reactions
I
that were
thought-
out of place.
I thought her performance was specifically on point,
Yeah.
and I loved the crap out of it.
Mm.
Alternately, the dude who played Envy is one of the most hateful, just heinous,
He was so
sadistic characters in
bland.
this in Full Metal Alchemist, and you want to hate that dude so much. He did nothing in this picture. It's live action interpretation. The dude that did him. Envy is a goofy looking SOB, and they they did their best, I guess, to get that look down, and the guy gave nothing. You know, it's just like you don't know why you're supposed to hate him for the majority of this film, and then they replace a few of the assassinations that Lust performed in the anime with Envy, I guess, to try to give him more to do in this because, and keep in mind. Again, anyone who's not familiar with this, you're going to be confused when you see it. Adam, you're going to miss a lot of stuff.
I am.
It's okay. Because they're compressing an anime, which is what, like 50 episodes?
60 episodes, yeah.
60 episodes down into a
100
two-
some odd chapters of manga, yeah. It's a lot.
yeah, in a movie that's just over 2 hours. Like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Can't be done.
But they
Yeah,
took
they-
out,
they-
I mean, and this is not a spoiler to say, like,
Mhm.
they took out a major part of Full Metal Alchemist, which is their father,
Mhm.
untouched in any way in this film. And it was so weird to me how they kind of built up this major confrontation, and it almost... throughout the whole film, I kept just saying, like, what is the plot of this film? Like, I get the point, like, all right, Ed wants Al's body back. I get it. But, like, what is the plot
They
of
never
this
really
movie?
go into why the stone is important.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Like,
that's
what
the
is
thing
the
that they want.
point of this film? It just, to me, looked like a really good cosplay video. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, all these cosplayers sure look great.
Well,
reenacting some of their
most
favorite
of these cosplayers
scenes.
look great. What the hell was with this dude's wig?
It didn't even have a seam. Like, I don't, just for anyone who wears wigs for cosplay, what I mean by a seam is this was not a lace front wig, and it didn't have any skin seam in the middle part. It just was such a wig. It was such a wig.
If anyone's familiar with this show, it's like if Adam tried to cosplay as me. Okay,
Which I have.
Well, I mean,
Fair.
yes,
Before.
yes.
I'm just bummed.
We'll talk about that.
I want to
We
give
need
this
write a
movie
letter
like I
somewhere.
like this movie. I'm just bummed because I wanted it to be so much more, and it feels so weird. Like Mustang was great. I loved him,
So
but he did nothing.
We'll get to him,
He did
but hold on.
nothing.
We've said
Oh
our
my
piece,
God.
Johnny. What's your interpretation?
Yeah, so I watched maybe like 5 episodes total of Full Metal Alchemist. My younger brother got big into it and watched the whole thing. But so I'm like vaguely familiar with some of the things that are going on in here. But watching this movie, I didn't feel like it was confusing at all. What I did feel like was that they were over-explaining things. It felt like the movie was made for a younger audience and sort of explaining the world and the lore to them. And it felt very hand-fisted. And it was very slow paced. So there's that. The visual effects were impressive for the certain characters, like
For
the
the
armor
first
itself.
half of the picture.
Right.
That's true.
I don't know
also-
where the budget ran out, but by like
You could see
minute
it.
30,
You could see it.
they went from like an MCU budget to a trauma budget.
Yeah, it was very clear that the budget was very limited, and you could tell it got so bad that the sound effects were just atrocious pretty much throughout all of it, but especially when Ed was punching with Dr. or Professor Tucker or whatever.
Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker. And like punching him,
Who did
or
give a good
punching a
performance
wall.
in
It was
that.
like
He was
the
great,
weakest
but,
sounding punches.
Well, it felt like they were putting anime sound effects in a live action movie, which is what it felt like to me. And that's a falling of a lot of live action versions of animated stuff. They try to almost keep it too much like the anime.
Way too much.
He would have looked so much better if they just had him having a more natural hair in a braid. Like Winry, for example, that's the girl that works on his automail, that's his friend. They didn't make her platinum blonde. They didn't make her, a white character, and they didn't make her look too unrealistic. But then that didn't carry over to other characters. And it was just like Envy didn't have neon green hair, which is, a failing, I would say. But
Color of Envy is green,
actually,
so.
I find that they did on some points try to make it less like the anime and more realistic, which I think failed on certain points.
Yes.
Yep.
Like you mentioned Colonel Mustang earlier, who's a very popular character, very well known, and everyone knows that when he snaps his fingers, something explodes. Fire, lots of stuff.
that's because his
Mustang,
alchemy
it's
is
awesome.
pyrotechnics. Is his alchemy.
Yes, and in this picture they tried to make it a lot more realistic, as if, well, he's got a weapon that shoots fire, right? So he goes like this, and then there's a stream of flame, which I didn't find that jarring. But one of the biggest complaints I've been hearing about is, why did it take so long when he's such a badass character who's like, he's all about quick action and these are his attacks? And it didn't bother me so much, but I'm very aware that this is a complaint a lot of people have when they do things like that. And then you talk about Winry, who is the one who works on Ed's automail. What the hell is automail? They never explain it. And
they never explain automail.
On so many people being familiar with the anime, anyone new is going to be completely lost because, Adam, I said the word automail. Does that make any sense to you at all?
No, none of this does.
And it's actually a pretty cool thing that if they had just given 2 sentences of explanation would have made
Showed
much more
her
sense.
fixing it. Showed her attaching it to him.
At no point did Winry do anything but complain and slap people.
She cried a bunch.
And cried about it. I'm not knocking the actress because
She was
her
good.
emotional
She was
scenes when she was supposed to be like down was actually kind of deep.
Well, for the acting, all of them pretty much were playing it as if they were playing the roles of the characters from the anime, like the antics, the emotions, and how they emoted themselves and how they sort of quarreled amongst themselves. It played out exactly like an anime, but the problem was the camera was not dynamic whatsoever.
Yeah, felt very,
and,
very bland.
It looked stilted and looked almost awkward most of the time. Where there was this exchange while they were eating, and they did this like very anime tropey type of exchange between them where they look at each other's eyes and they sort of tilt their head and stuff like that. The camera should have cut and sort of been way more dynamic to show this like little
heated argument.
Argument. It didn't even do it. It was
it's
one
where in an anime they'd be like shooting electricity at each other. And I completely agree that I think what the bummer of this movie was that it was neither an anime movie nor a live action movie. That it was like, it's what I'd say, like when I bring up cosplayers, it felt like a bunch of cosplayers reenacting their favorite moments of Fullmetal Alchemist. It didn't feel like a coherent, realistic film. And I'm not saying an anime film has to be realistic because, you know, there's homunculi and magic and all this stuff. But I feel that it felt very bland, and it also felt very like it was very meandering. It didn't feel like, all right, here's the big climactic fight. And it just felt very, I wasn't sure where it was going in a very dull way.
Yeah, if this was a fan movie, it would have been spectacular. But the fact that it was a studio production,
from Netflix itself.
They dropped the ball. From Netflix,
wow.
A ball was dropped because you get characters. I'm not knocking some certain characters. Captain Hughes, one of my absolute favorites. They nailed him. The guy
was so perfect. It was
perfect.
Wonderful, terrible.
But his entire background was redesigned for we just lost Black Adam Willis, y'all, so we'll shout him out on the comments afterward. But we lost a lot of the we lost Captain Hughes' family.
Yeah, which is such a major part also because his daughter is such a foil for Nina. And to have had Nina in this film, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but Nina is Dr. Tucker's daughter, and Hughes' daughter is such a foil for that character, and it was just they made some changes that were both intriguing and almost boring, almost made me care less about the character.
I understand why they
You can only do so much. It's a movie.
Well, yeah, it's a different problem that we touched on before. This is an entire series. It's rich, that they compress, just hard trash compacted into just over 2 hours, and that really hurt the story itself. Because as an anime, I like Fullmetal Alchemist. I don't like the second series, and I'm guessing I wouldn't like the manga because of that. Yes, right. If anyone's not watching, Mix is giving me those death eyes there.
I have a lot of
lightning bolts are
I have a lot of
streaking
feelings
right
about
now.
little boys.
And see the way it's shot because it's live action now. But I think it definitely hurt this production, and a lot of it is reliant on your knowledge of the anime or the manga. But because of that, you see how much more it failed.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I'll definitely praise Captain Hughes. Love the guy in the anime. Love him in this movie. Tucker, even though I hate that character
love to hate him. He was perfect.
Yeah, he was pretty good in this.
Gluttony was amazing.
I'll definitely praise the effects for the first half of the movie. That there's an intro chase scene which just looked awesome.
It literally is like they ran out of money. It's unbelievable. You can see there's a scene change, and from that point on, it does not look as good as it previously did.
Which is unfortunate because for the entirety of this, I love the look of Al in the suit of armor.
Looked great.
Yeah.
It looked really good. It didn't feel like it carried, like the heaviness of armor. So when they interact with that, but that's like a film snob.
It was also very agile for a full set of armor.
Well, I mean, come on, he's what, 10?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
Nope.
That joke tanked, ladies and gentlemen. But I will say there was effort made on the parts of actors here, but overall the concept was flawed from the beginning, and it just didn't work for me. I got to give this a thumbs down.
Yeah, hard thumbs down.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up but with the caveat of, if you love Fullmetal Alchemist, you will enjoy seeing this film, if even just to make fun of it. You will not feel like it's a waste of time. But if you do not know Fullmetal Alchemist, thumbs down, give it a pass. You'll barely be able to keep up with what was happening because it was just ridiculously not very thorough.
I didn't think it was that bad to follow as a non-Full Alchemist fan, but as a movie itself, it was a failure on all the technical aspects.
That makes sense. You know what sucks, though? I wanted to like this so hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I went into this so hype.
Also, it's an anime, a live-action interpretation of an anime, but they actually cast Japanese actors.
Which
they
is
cast Asian
funny to
Asian
me
role.
In the sense of it's one of the few animes that very explicitly takes place in Europe.
Yeah, that's another.
Now, I'm not saying don't cast Asian actors. I'm just saying it's funny that for all of those movies, Ghost in the Shell, that take place very explicitly
in Japan.
Mm-hmm. That this one, takes place in, I think Armistice is the name of the world, and it's Europe.
Ishvala.
Yeah. No, Ishvala is no.
It's very clearly Europe. They even had they
because they have
mentioned the word Führer. I'm like, what?
Well, Führer, because that's another thing. They never touch on the fact that the Führer King Bradley is the main head of the military. They never get into that whatsoever.
Well,
they just throw the word Führer.
Yeah.
They just throw the word Führer.
Where was my boy Armstrong? I would have loved to have seen Scar.
There's no green.
Is that the Sparkle guy?
No.
No, Scar is
well,
in the
we'll
anime. He's
talk
the guy
off air because we gotta.
Well, okay. These are other characters that are very poignant, very well known from the series, and were omitted from this. And I understand you had to make a lot of sacrifices because, again, you're cramming an entire series into a short 2-hour movie. But don't reach for the sky. Tell one simple story, or at the very least, I would have loved to have seen you not try to rehash the story from the anime and tell a separate story. Brotherhood was a different story from the anime already presented, and it has a huge following. Well, maybe this is a side story. This is an adventure with the Elric brothers, and they do whatever it is they do and not focus on the damn Philosopher's Stone, which I think really hurt this movie, focusing on something that they gave so little detail on. I already gave it a thumbs down. I don't know what to say, except Armstrong is not in it, and that is a damn shame. Because somewhere out there, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson could have had that little curl going on. That would have been an amazing Armstrong.
So good.
I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there.
In conclusion,
Full Metal Alchemist. It's available on Netflix right now if anyone wants to check it out. And if you're a hardcore Full Metal Alchemist fan,
it's worth checking out.
Yeah, you got to see
larf.
It. I would say mostly for closure.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying if you love Full Metal Alchemist and you want to laugh at this ridiculous movie, you'll have a kick out of it. But it's not going to be a good film.
All right, so Johnny, you're getting that new tattoo of like FMA right here.
You say that like I don't already have one.
The serpent.
Yeah,
with the
homunculus. The homunculus.
Yeah. Oh, you get that? See, I'd actually get the alchemy symbol.
You want the alchemy symbol?
Alchemy symbol is
I got the homunculus Ouroboros.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen more homunculi though, and
we only see 3. It's wild. We
only see 3.
Wild.
The dude that does gluttony.
Did y'all did you watch it after the credits?
Yeah, that dumbness.
No.
Okay, real quick. Something happens after the credits that makes less than no sense if you've never seen the anime.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Actually, I don't even remember if that happens in the original anime.
I feel like I've seen the scene, but I'm not sure if it was on the anime or if it was like a YouTube thing.
Okay.
But it's stupid. It is so stupid. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying I stayed to watch after the credits, hoping something magical would happen, and it was like the dumbest Easter egg.
I just let the credits go. I couldn't bother myself to like stop the playback because it was just like, what the hell? Oh, something's happening, and then it was dumb. Okay, so this has been the Geek Down here on WEMF Radio, and thank you all for joining us. You can catch us all every Monday nights right here on WEMFradio.com. But also, we mentioned it several times during the show, you can watch us on twitch.tv/TheGeekDown and see our pretty faces. Also, you can follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on SoundCloud, on Twitter. We're on iTunes. You can subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. And you can get the show on a regular basis. You can also hit us up at geekdownradio@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to say about what you saw, you disagree with us on a review, you have comments, insights, all that stuff, let us know what's happening. And just hit up the regular website at geek-down.com for all the goodness there. And in the About section, all those links I just gave. Until next week, I want to thank Mitch McCobb.
Yes.
I want to thank Just Johnny.
Yo.
I want to thank Black Adam Willis out there in TV land. I want to thank you, listeners, for joining us. We'll catch you all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. But until then, be excellent to each other. Peace.
Why have good music if